Hey guys,
Yo.
Hunter and Matt here from Team Misfit, and we wanted to give you kind of a why video on GPP. So we get a ton of questions through various channels, kind of asking various questions like the classic, "That's it?" Like that's all the training that we have for the day. What other questions do we get? Why I can't figure out the pattern like I can in the competitor program. Like competitor program is very structured. GPP is a little bit more fluid from month to month. So we wanted to sit down and kind of have a conversation as to why GPP is probably the best program for most, and really just to kind of give you the down low on our methodology and our thoughts when we're building out this program. So we're just going to roll right into this, and I'm going to start kind of by asking Matt, because I like the way that he defined this, and we're just going to kind of go back and forth, but let's define GPP. Aside from general physical preparedness.
That's it, done.
Yeah,
Easy.
done. Easy. Okay, great. Next. How do you define it, Sherb?
I mean, I think the best scenario to try to teach someone what GPP is something in our beginners class that we do every single month, because you have someone that comes from basically no background on what CrossFit is, and you have to tell them like why they would want to use this program versus just going to like one of our affiliates is next door to Planet Fitness. So you have the option of paying our rate or going next door for $10. So
literally next door is Planet Fitness.
Next door to us. So figuring out, or giving that information to your athletes is important because they understand now why I would want to do this. So I always try to tell people the type of program we run at our gym is to put you in this constant ready state. So you have athletes or you have people who come to you looking to improve their health, improve their fitness, and they're like, what am I going to expect from this program? And I tell them, like, with your fitness that you develop at the gym, you want to feel like you can do essentially anything. You're ready for kind of any physical task. Friend asks you, hey, can you help me move this couch down 3 flights of stairs? Yeah, I work out. I'm confident enough in my strength and my fitness that I can help you carry that couch. Someone wants to go, hey, do you want to go hike Mount Katahdin, which is the tallest mountain in Maine? Like, yeah, I would love to go do that because we have a fitness that allows us to do so. Our favorite example with parents is if your kid ran towards the street, could you run after your kid right before he got to the street, pick him up and run him back to the house to keep him out of harm's way? That's the type of fitness that we try to cultivate at the gym, where we're just looking to essentially have a very well-rounded ability to not only have a good cardiovascular system, but we're strong enough to move our own body weight around, which is what we call gymnastics. And then can we move external objects? Like, can you pick up a child? Can you move a couch? Can you put a heavy bag of dog food on top of the refrigerator so the dogs won't get into it? Like, that's the type of fitness we're trying to cultivate with this GPP. So it seems very broad, and it is because we want you to be ready for essentially any imaginable task that could come your way.
Right. And I think one other thing, kind of expanding on the GPP thought, is that we are not looking for you to be able to sustain the GPP program for a month or 2 months before you need a deload week or you need a break from the gym. Like we want you to be able to come into the gym like that 4 or 5 days a week forever, right? Yeah. Like we want this program is not meant to be sustained over a couple weeks or a couple months. It's meant to be sustained over a very, very long period of time where you're making incremental progress over days, weeks, months, and years, rather than seeking that, the 6 week strength program, the 6 week squat cycle is great. That helps you. It helps you in that very short term. But when we're talking over like a lifetime, that's what we're looking for in GPP.
The biggest thing I tell people this is, like, I'm not looking for you to get excited about a fad or something you're really passionate about for, like you said, a few months, and then go, either I got hurt or I stopped seeing results and I stopped getting interest in what I was doing and I get burnt out. That's not to say the competitor track that we have is not an excellent option for people who are looking to advance in the sport of fitness. If they have aspirations of, doing CrossFit competitions, or they have aspirations of competing in these new sanctionals, competitor program is excellent, right? It's a chance for someone to use our other tier or other program to essentially use the Misfit Athletics blog at their affiliate. But with GPP, how I really want people to think about it is that I want you to be able to do this type of training for the rest of your life, because as we've seen in our affiliates day in and day out, people constantly are changing their lives for the better. And if we can focus on constant progression and just development of skills and getting better, once you get 1 strict pull-up, can you get 2? Can you get 5? Can you get 10? If we make that our focus, people are going to say they're in it for the long game rather than the short game. And that's, the key to a lot of gyms is that churn, right? You have that person who's really fired up, buys all the gear, has one little shoulder injury and then you never see him again.
Right.
We want to develop the athlete that, understands that there are many different components and it takes a very long time to get very, decent at all of them, and to be patient with that and understand that with this program, you now have a coach who has a little bit more time to teach you things and take you through movements and teach you the progressions so that you essentially develop better as an athlete and you stay healthier in the long run, because the key to success at your CrossFit gym is eliminating churn. So how often people come in and then leave, and keeping people healthy, right? If you have a reputation for developing fitness, keeping people safe, and relatively happy at the same time, you get the recipe for a really good gym. So we want to help you with at least a couple of those tiers where we're
combine that with the community aspect, and you got a pretty great community. So you kind of hit on it. Let's talk about, now that we've kind of defined it, like how do we do that? And you and I have had this conversation, and various conversations have been had throughout the office about how we program, how we kind of the how behind the programming. So we track it, obviously, from month to month. That's basically we ensure that as many variables as we can track are tracked.
Correct.
And when we miss something in one given month, we compare the last month or last 2 months, last 3 months if possible, and make sure that we're not gapping anything over a really long period of time. And you have the question sometimes at your gym. We get the question in emails like, hey, I haven't snatched heavy in a month. I haven't done a heavy single snatch in 2 months. Like, what's going on? So, like, you want to talk about that? We can.
Sure.
We can go back and forth.
Yeah,
on that
essentially.
All day.
So the difference between the GPP and the competitor tier is just that structure of strength work and the format you would notice. So if you subscribe to the other tier of programming, you're going to notice that it's very structured, but there's parts 1, 2, and 3 every single day in accordance with a warm up and mobility. But it's very structured, and you'll notice that there's a pattern where for 6 weeks you'll squat every Tuesday or you'll snatch every Friday. Like, that's very structured. It works excellent for affiliates, but a lot of affiliates realize that we want to have great exposure to many different things. So like Hunter said, we have a chart. We make sure that we balance things: short, medium, long, light, moderate, heavy. And then we see a good dose of gymnastics, weightlifting, and cardiovascular movements, all combined in different patterns so that, your athletes are seeing progress. The important thing to us is that your athletes understand the basics of conditioning. They get a chance to get exposed to, again, short, medium, long. They learn how to move barbells, move their own body weight. And there's enough time in the programming that allows you to really teach the movement, because personally I've dropped into gyms that are amazing. When you walk in there and that coach is in charge from minute 0 to minute 60, you don't get a chance to take a break for 1 second, other than maybe like a quick bathroom break. And then there's other affiliates where they would be, hey, this is what we're doing today. I'm going to show you one thing, and then the hour is yours. Figure it out. And
the old time manager.
Yeah, and there's people, there's degrees in between, but the biggest thing is that we want to give you guys an opportunity to really develop as coaches, to really teach people something, because that's where a lot of the magic lies in this stuff. Is that, yes, people are going to get fitter because they're probably going from not moving to moving, but a lot of people want to learn how to move their body better because it extends their life. It extends their quality of life. Because one of my favorite things is who cares if you can live to be 100 years old if you spend the last 40 years in a nursing home? Great, you lived to 100, but you had 40 miserable years at the end of your life. We want you to be able to go from birth into the grave and feel like you have full functioning in your body and you're not limited by your own current health situation.
And I want to hit two things actually that you brought up. One is the consistency that people really like with certain programs. Like, hey, on Mondays, I'm going to back squat, and next week I'm going to do it slightly heavier than the week before. How many people in your the average member show up on the exact same days every single week?
Yeah, I mean, you hear this argument 2 different ways. Yeah. You say, all right, why aren't you guys doing structured strength? People aren't progressing because they aren't repeating the same movement over and over again. Yeah. And then I get the other argument. It's like, Jim Bob can't come to the gym on Wednesday, so he never squats. How can you help me?
Yeah, it's exactly.
Either way, we're in trouble here. So what I find the GPP does a better job of, again, is exposing you to many different things. And we've said this a bunch of times on Misfit Athletics podcast. The best strength accessory programming in the world is in getting in better shape. And guess what? They're going to do every single time they walk in the gym is to get a little bit better in shape.
Yeah.
So whether they know it or not, whether they're doing structured strength work or not, they're still going to get fitter and stronger by moving their body and getting out of breath and essentially just training, regardless if it's structured or if it feels less structured.
And just speaking to the strength stuff in general, that's mostly what people are talking about when they want like that pattern or the consistency. It's like, I want to know that I'm getting stronger. Like, we don't repeat workouts, Metcons, super often, with the exception of benchmarks, hero workouts, the occasional test retest piece, but you do see the 1 rep maxes are like the kind of what people use as a metric. My kind of response to that is, as a coach, you need to be encouraging your members to be tracking their workouts. So if we did 8s, if we did 4 sets of 8 back squat, for example, most people see that as like, well, I don't know what my heaviest set of 8 is. Like, that's fine. Record it, and then the next time when you've got 5 sets of 5 that come up and you don't know what your best set of 5 is, you have something to refer to, or you know something. So the more information you can glean from the training that you're doing, the easier it is to see that progress. Like, if Susie did her set of 5 at 100 pounds, and then she did her set of 8 3 weeks later at 105 pounds, like, she's
getting stronger.
Yeah, great.
Getting
You don't like that structured strength program is working just fine. That GPP style of strength is working because you did more weight for more reps or more total
don't get me
work.
wrong, test retest works great. If you have a test week, 5 to 6 weeks of training, and then test week again, and you see improvement, that's excellent. A lot of times that just comes from exposure again to the same stimulus. You know where you could have done better. It's no different than someone doing an open workout on Thursday and again on Monday and getting a better score. How I look at it, though, is that when you have those test weeks, athletes start to get burnt out if they're really like gung-ho first beginning of the week. They do the first 2 days, they do really well. Maybe Wednesday they don't PR, or they're really close to their old score. Yeah. And then by Thursday, Friday, they're trashed because they're just giving absolute 100% intensity, and they don't have any more. So rather than see that like full week of tests, we'll sprinkle them in there throughout the entire year, and you'll see things like classic CrossFit benchmarks like Fran, Grace, Isabel come up, as well as more of the more model structural stuff like 5K row, 5K run, what's your max set of strict pull-ups. Those type of things pop up. But for the general member, exposure to that is the key. They're going to get consistency throughout their training throughout the year. Yep. But doing the going linear progression on a strict pull-up, if you did that for a few weeks, yes, that would work. But then members would be like, all right, great, it's Wednesday again, we're doing strict pull-ups. And then the excitement is lost. I just go back in my mind to thinking about when I started doing CrossFit years ago, it was main site. Like, it was exciting to be on that website at 8 p.m. to see what you're going to do the next day. Right. And I want that same amount of excitement to come from your members. If they're like, ugh, I hate the Misfit Clean Complex, and every Thursday's Misfit Clean Complex, some of them will still come, but some of them might just skip that day, and then they miss out on a good day of training. Yeah. And skip part of that falls 5K, on us for
5K run day.
Yeah, part of that falls on your coaching staff or the people that are in charge to make sure that you understand why you'd want to do that. But I totally understand where people are coming from when they're like, ugh, really, 5K row? I did that like 2 weeks ago. I don't want to do that again. Gross.
So we kind of address the structure, the programming methodology. Hopefully you guys understand that it is not random. It is
not even a little bit
less structured from week to week than the competitor program, for example, is, but it is absolutely tracked. And again, the goal is a much longer term program than the competitor program, for example. So aside from the strength, like, hey, I can't figure out the pattern, probably the next most common question we get or that affiliates have questions on is the old, that's it? So the classic one that I responded to a couple weeks ago was 100 cals on the assault bike for time. And you and I know, like, if you prime people well enough, give them the proper motivation, turn the music up loud enough, and make sure people rip on that thing, people are probably going to be rolling around for like 15-20 minutes on the floor and should be essentially useless for the remainder of your hour. So how do we go about, what are your thoughts on going about a class like that? I'm not saying like break it down minute by minute by any means, just like what can we as coaches do when the workout might only be 5 to 10 minutes at most? Like, what else are we doing in that hour?
I mean, for me, you have a chance to refine strategies for people. Some people have done 100 calories and they know exactly how to push and where to push and what to do. Some athletes that are coming there have never done this movement or never done that type of workout before, and they might think 100 calories takes 100 minutes. And you're like, that's too slow of a pace. Like, so part of it can be talked about.
That sounds good to me. I like that.
Strategy with athletes, the pacing, how to attack this. Like you said, priming. If you truly wanted to prime someone, you'd probably have them go through 3 or 4 good sprints of, somewhere between 5 and 15 calories with a few minutes rest in between. So you do 3 or 4 of those, you're looking at 15, 20 minutes just in getting yourself ready, like physically charged up to do this. And like you said, if you do this correctly, it's somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes that we talked about, only about 5, 10 minutes of programmed work. But it's your responsibility not to be like, all right, classes, you're done your 100 calories. See you next time. Yeah. Like, you have to cool your athletes down, talk about recovery, talk about, if someone didn't do as well, maybe potentially talk about strategies with people. Like, hey, how did you feel this went? Reflection is a part of an affiliate class that I think often gets missed. And it can be something as simple as, hey guys, what'd you think of that? What was the worst part? Where could you have moved faster? Those type of things get athletes thinking about it and make the program more than just the physical training, and it brings that mental side into it. Yep. So for me, you have the opportunity to give strategy pieces, prime properly, hit it correctly, cool down properly. And then if you still have time, like, even though we send out the programming, tell your coach to be a little creative. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, we're going to end today with a 3-minute plank, or who can hold a plank the longest to end class? We got 10 minutes left. Or maybe their quads are just on fire and everyone's like, I can't feel my legs. Well, maybe you grab a 25-pound plate and you roll it over your quad for the next 10 minutes to loosen up, some of that tight tissue from biking. But there's so many different ways to skin the cat. And if you're thinking about, your full hour and you plan accordingly, like, you got to have that contingency plan for if you only have 3 bikes and 15 people, you're running 5 heats. Like, you got to think about how you're going to do that. So, sometimes it might feel like it's not enough, but that's the opportunity for a coach to really shine and show what they're made of. And, as we progress through these podcasts and this website continues to grow, we want to give you resources for how to continue to fill that hour, because we want people to feel like, even if the workout was Fran and it was 3 minutes long, that hour was packed from 0 to 60. That's how we want you guys to feel your classes feel.
And so from my perspective, one, you as the coach have the responsibility for understanding kind of the intended stimulus of the workout. There will be shorter days where the intensity is not the same as that 100 cal bike day, but for that day, for this day, for example, you as the coach are responsible for communicating the importance of intensity, what you should be doing on the bike, how you should be feeling. Because at the end of the workout, if your members are looking at you like, what else do I, was that it? Like, did I do it wrong? Like, that is more a reflection of you as the coach than it is on the member, assuming that they're, either a novice or not one of your more experienced members. For me, the other things for me are a little bit more the nuts and bolts. If you have that kind of class, other things that you can be doing is, like, throw in some skill work. This is a day where there is essentially no, there's no prep as far movement prep necessarily for a biking piece. Mm-hmm. So it's not, you don't need to mobilize, do some extraneous stretching, anything like that. So you've got 30 to 40 minutes on the front end of class that you could be focusing on a high skill movement. Like, if your members take the open seriously, or if you've got members who always rely on the ring row as their scale for pull-ups, that is a reflection of you and your coaching, and less a reflection of the programming. And I don't mean to shove that off on everybody else at all. I'm just saying, we as coaches have a responsibility to teach that. We can't expect members to come in 30 minutes before class to do their mobility and stick around for 30 minutes afterward to work on skills or something like that. If you are truly following that GPP model, you should be able to do that within that 1 hour, get them in the door, out the door 1 hour later, and they can move about or go on with their day. So fitting in things like that skill work, get members closer to those higher skill movements, and all of a sudden the program that has muscle ups and handstand push-ups and these high skill movements starts to get really challenging, because your members are able to do kind of the movements as prescribed. So fit in that skill work, fit in those progressions. You are certainly not prevented from having your members grab an empty barbell and spending the first 20 minutes of class working on snatch technique or weightlifting technique. hell, let them put a little bit of weight on the bar. Like, just because it's not written in the program doesn't mean you don't have the flexibility as the coach to do that. We provide you with the guide, but this is one of the reasons we really like the GPP program, is that it allows coaches to coach. Like, there's nothing wrong if that's the way that your affiliate likes it, the way your members like it, by kind of just giving them the work and you are kind of the supervisor. If that works for you, then awesome. But the GPP program is meant to allow coaches to coach, and that's the big thing for me.
The only thing I have to piggyback on that is there's always these opportunities to do movements that don't necessarily work well as conditioning pieces, or maybe you don't have the equipment to support big classes. So like, take your members over to the GHD, teach them how to do glute ham raises, teach them how to do GHD sit-ups, have them practice their seated rope climbs, like just weird things that maybe don't work well because when intensity is applied, the heart rate gets up, people can't necessarily do these movements. This is an excellent opportunity to practice this stuff. Like, I just think of all the movements that I would love if I had a warehouse gym that had every piece of equipment and I had 100 of them. Yeah, I would love to have everybody finish class with a 15 calorie ski sprint if we had 15 people. Like, that would be awesome. Sometimes you're not afford that luxury because, equipment's expensive and you have limited resources. So this is a chance to do something like that, because I can't even begin to tell you how many times someone's like, man, I would love to spend 1 minute of your time at the end of class to teach pull-ups after a frustrating pull-up day. And because of the size of the class, it's like, I have to get these people cooled down and out of here, and we don't have time to do that. Yeah. This is an excellent opportunity to do stuff like that. So that's how I look at that.
And when there's a lot of work programmed, when it's like, if it's that day that's like a lift and then a conditioning piece that really tightens you up,
wire to wire,
you start to realize like, oh crap, like I can't coach. Like, I need to make sure that we get this done.
I'm a time manager, not a coach.
Yeah. So, I think that pretty much.
I mean, going from there, I mean, the next thing is like, if you're looking at the programming and you have newer coaches, you have people who aren't as experienced. I mean, one of the things that we found really valuable at our affiliate here that we've been starting to, implement is weekly coaches meetings. So if you have this scenario where you look at that, or you have newer coaches and they look at that and you're like, how am I supposed to run an hour with a 7-minute workout? Like, break this down. A great exercise is to grab that thing from our site, the class planning sheet, and going through, a hypothetical week and go, all right, Steve, you've got Monday, Hunter, you've got Tuesday, Matt, you've got Wednesday, and then we'll all present how we fill an hour, and then you guys can borrow ideas from each other. Like, it sounds silly, but we just did a workout out front there, and Austin's warm-up today was literally just 2 minutes of bear crawls where he would say, all right, now you only get to use 3 limbs instead of all 4. Yeah. Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of silly, but at the end I was like, wow, I'm actually really warmed up.
You guys looked ridiculous.
Yeah, we looked silly, but we were really warm, and it did a great job getting our body ready to do the class work. So, I mean, you get the chance to interact with your fellow peers. You guys can share information, what works well for you, what didn't work well for you. It's great to say, hey, I taught the morning class and I realized that we finished with like 90 seconds left. Maybe consider shortening your warm-up down to 3 minutes versus 7 minutes or something like that. Yeah. And that type of information goes a long way towards building a cohesive message in your gym, so that, someone doesn't go to your morning class and go, oh, they only have me do it this way. And they go to the evening class, they're like, I've never done this before. We want to make sure we interact and we talk about ideas and share ideas with each other, so that we have one uniform message as a team, because that's how I want my coaching staff to interact, is as one big team.
And I can't stress the importance of kind of that planning ahead enough, especially with the GPP program. I think you need to be might get some flack for this. I think you need to be a better coach to coach the GPP program than the competitor program. You need to have a larger skill set, a larger toolbox of abilities to effectively run like a really high quality GPP program. Where
I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. The only like asterisks I would put on that is sometimes you would see, more of the high level. When I mean high level, I just mean open related or like competition related movements. Some of those need, are looking for a very keen eye to refine things, especially with more advanced members. But in terms of generalities and running a class, I would totally agree with that, because there's less program work on an average than there are in the competitor program.
And with that, what my point was is that the importance of planning ahead, especially when those, when your class is the programmed work is pretty small, you need to have a plan in place. So you can, like I said, come up with all kinds of different progressions and plan and things to like fill the time, but there is a difference between filling the time and having a like well-planned, progressive something that makes sense. So just having your members, hey, you're gonna do 20 minutes of muscle up practice. Like here's a couple pointers, go. That ain't it.
Yeah,
There are lots of ways to do that, and planning out, writing things down, seeing it on paper ahead of time. I can't stress the importance of that enough, especially if you're going to run this GPP style of programming as the coach. So,
all right. Well, to wrap this up, I want to give me a point. Why would someone want to choose? Give me one reason why someone would choose GPP over competitor. If they were going to be like, hey, I'm still on the fence, I don't know which one I want to do. What would be your deciding factor in your mind?
Man,
this can be from members' experience, or this can be for the coaches, or anywhere in between. Your choice.
I'll say it from my experience. So as somebody who used to do like a competitor style of programming, I am equally, if not more fit now doing our affiliate classes. To be fair, our affiliate class, we usually have a lift before the conditioning piece, but it is
at this affiliate. Our other affiliate uses the GPP programming.
Sometimes I do not. I only do the conditioning piece. Some days, if I don't take class, I'll only do basically that one workout a day. And I have learned to greatly appreciate or relearn going really, really hard, and not wanting to do anything else. And that has paid dividends over like a few months, where I've noticed that I've gotten far fitter with far less effort. So I think that like the kind of the intensity piece rules all, and that is not saying that I do like a high intensity conditioning piece every day. Like some days, yesterday for example, 4x4 back squat, and that was it. I was done. So communicating the importance of that intensity, going hard when it's necessary, focusing on technique, lifting, whatever, when that's the programmed work of the day, but also reminding people that this is the goal is long term. This is not a short term thing that we're trying to achieve. We want fitness over a very long period of time. So
yeah, I'd say my take home from the GPP, one thing I really like as a coach, coaching both styles of programming with the GPP, I think a huge part of training happens between the ears. And I mean by practicing a movement, and early on, your members don't create physiological changes, like their muscles don't get bigger. They don't have better storage of ATP so they can make more muscle contractions.
Yeah.
Those things don't happen right away. What really happens for the first few months is that neurological component where your brain communicates with your muscles, and you learn how to recruit muscles and find movement patterns and refine movement. And with this ability to have a little bit less programming in class, you get an opportunity to really, really practice and focus on getting incrementally better every single time you come back. Because, you might have a class that says 20 minutes to find a raw max split jerk, and that might be the entire program work. Your advanced athletes, they grab a barbell, they start putting heavy weight in the bar, and you give them a couple things to focus on. And then you have maybe your novice, your intermediate athletes in the corner. It's like, all right, first 10 minutes, you guys get nothing but an empty barbell, and let's really drill one part of it. Could be footwork, could be pushing under, whatever you decide the focus is for today. And by giving them the opportunity to really practice a skill and create that neurological adaptation, they're going to set themselves up for, again, that longevity down the road where they're not learning bad motor patterns, getting hurt because they move poorly, and then quitting because they keep getting hurt. Like, you're setting them up for success. So to me, it's that every single time we come in here, we want to get incrementally better. We want to get a little bit better. Never strive for perfection, but improvement. That's the exciting point. That's what I want to see in the GPP program, is that opportunity to get a little bit better every single day.
And from a coach's perspective, so I kind of spoke from like a member or athlete, whatever. I really like being able to spend time in skill work. I like, if as a coach, if you haven't experienced in a while or ever that your member getting a first something. I had a member last week during our bar muscle up skill work. She got her first and then subsequently second and third bar muscle up.
That's awesome.
And it's so cool. If you haven't experienced that before or haven't in a while, like you're missing out. And that's like they're like the athletes on a high for like the whole week. Like you write that on the whiteboard, like put a big star around it, put a big circle with 4 different color white, markers. Like, it's really cool. So,
and if you had a class that was wire to wire, you wouldn't have that opportunity to spend those 3 or 4 minutes with that member.
Yep.
You're like, all right, sorry, the strength was over. We got to go right in this Metcon because we're going to have 3 minutes at the end of class to put our stuff away and be into the next class. So just an opportunity to do things maybe that aren't provided for you if the class is a little bit more full.
They just might need to hear like this one thing that like makes everything click. Like I'm sure you've heard it before, like, oh, like it finally clicked, or like I get it now. Like that, as a coach, that's a super rewarding thing. So I think to kind of wrap things up, the important part about the GPP program is educating both your coaches and your members. So if you see that one workout, which is 5 minutes long, as you're programming with no context and aren't communicating to your members why this is important, how to attack this, or you're not having a conversation amongst your coaches about how we can make this a valuable class, then it will fail.
Mm-hmm.
You will fail as a coach. The members will not like the program. But if you can educate them on all the things that we just talked about and really get them to buy into the program, like the sky's the limit on what you can see out of them. So thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully we helped you kind of understand the GPP program a little bit better, and keep in mind what the purpose of Team Misfit is. What we want to communicate to you, what we want to provide to you, is the ability to deliver the best product possible to your members. That is what we're trying to get at. It's about them. It's not about you. So keep this in mind when you're communicating this stuff to your members. Use the coaches' tools on the website. We'll see you guys next time.